How are you guys doing?
We're awesome. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course. What time is it there?
Right now it's 8 o'clock, 8 p.m.
We're just getting started. It's only 11, so this is early.
Oh, wow.
8 hours.
Yeah.
So let's start off by saying congratulations with the upcoming project and with the release of the first single.
Thank you.
I mean, Days Gone By was made by two boys in a windowless basement in Brooklyn. And then the second album, Battle Lines, was made by two young men heavily inspired by the things they experienced when traveling the world. And I was wondering, how would you describe the men who made the upcoming project Desire?
Wow, that's a great question. We made it. This is the first record I think we made almost exclusively like on the road. Like most of our music was done in studios that we would like block out periods of time. But this one was made sort of like while we were touring, and we would rent out studios for periods of times in cities. So I think this one was sort of the most, for lack of a better word, I think it's the most carefree we've sort of been, if that makes sense.
Good point. I mean, I think this is, we're a little more seasoned. We're a little more, I don't know what you can say. I think this is a big one about falling victim to, inspired by falling victim sometimes to the things that, you know, having a couple somewhat successful records and touring the world a few times over can lead you to, and reckoning with that, and sort of the whole EP is all sort of meditations or thoughts about desire and set you free and where it can lead you to ruin. And so that's kind of where we're coming from. That wasn't necessarily intentional, but as we were writing it, kind of like coalesced around that idea, you know?
Yeah, I think that's very interesting because you just touched on it. The team Desire, that's what inspired this project. Has the relationship that you guys have with the concept of desire changed during the EP process?
Yeah, totally. I think like getting a bit more. I think it's almost been like because we've focused on it so explicitly and we've thought about it and really written about it, and we've sort of tried to round out the various, you know, we had one thing about, we started with the single Desire, and then we kind of wrote another song that was sort of related to a side. It's almost like we've had a counseling session amongst ourselves about what desire is and how we relate to it and where it's messed us up. And I think that we're more intimately familiar with it as a subject as opposed to just sort of flying by the seat of our pants, if that makes sense.
Completely, yeah.
Yeah, and let's just talk about the video, because I was watching the video in which there's like this constant switch, it almost seems like, between danger and safety, maybe even love. I felt that was like a very interesting way to visualize the relationship you guys have with desire.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that this concept, like, we based a lot of the imagery sort of off Icarus, from Greek mythology. And so these concepts of desire have been around with humans for thousands of years and will continue to do so. So our record and this single is sort of like a modern adaptation of it, you know?
I like that. And on this track, the title track, you collaborated with Zoo. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, by the way.
Yeah.
How did that come about? How did that collaboration happen?
We met him at a music festival. We played festival with him a few years ago and just kind of hit it off. It was actually a festival on a cruise ship, so we were all trapped on board for 5 days or however long it was.
And wow.
It's like sort of an artist area, and everybody's just kind of like doing DJ sets at all hours and partying together and stuff. So it's really cool in that way. And we just ended up hanging out with him, and we hit it off as friends. And then after the second album, we were touring a lot, but we were also really focused on booking studio time in the middle of whenever we had a few days off. When we did the first album, we just kind of toured and we just lived it up. And on the second record, we wanted to kind of keep our finger in the studio, or however you want to say it, one foot in the studio as much as we could, and not sort of lose that connection. And so we opened it up to collaborations, and we just kind of like put it out there. And we were in LA for a few days off, and he was in LA, and we just kind of said, do you want to get together? And we rented a studio for a day and just went in there with no real expectations. And it was just kind of like, sometimes you just get lucky. Sometimes things are a slog in the studio, and sometimes things just happen. And this was one of those instances when things just happened. And we had the track like pretty much in a day.
It was
right?
quick.
I love how even though you guys are like 2 albums in right now, it still feels like you guys are constantly experimenting and kind of like looking for your sound, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like there's a lot of things that we can do, from writing pop songs to like really underground experimental production stuff. So for us, it's about like testing the boundaries of what we're capable of, and then figuring out like where that fits for us. So I think it's like, there's lots of things that we've written that will never see the light of day, but like it's fun for us to try and push the boundaries a little bit every time of like, oh, do you think we can get away with this? And there's something like exciting and exhilarating and creatively freeing about trying to do that every time we make new music.
Yeah, because the live acts also always started with the 2 of you, and then over the years you expanded your live act with a band, and I heard that now you guys are back to just the 2 of you. How did that happen, or how did that how would you say that transition happen to back to you guys on stage?
We've always the band is not done. We just it's sort of, as we were building the band, we started as the 2 of us, as you said, and then we were just always trying to think about how we could push it and make our live show as interesting as possible. And to us, we grew up loving rock bands, and also, bands like the Prodigy and stuff, and Chemical Brothers, who like had a big live show that was really not just 2 dudes pushing buttons,
Yeah.
And so we were really interested in pushing those boundaries. And it also is very creatively freeing to have other musicians to play with, because it really, like, the guys, Joe and Julio, our bass player and our drummer, they really inspire us, and we build the show together, and like they help us write little transition bits that's really like we're a band. We're four musicians using these songs as bass, but then collaborating and making a show. And so we were doing that a lot. And then on the last record, we started doing a lot of DJ sets for after parties and stuff. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of like, this is really fun. And we were at the same time, this EP started sort of as like let's make some tracks for us to play in our club sets, DJ sets, just the 2 of us. And then it just kind of naturally occurred as an answer to really getting the band. I think that when we started, sort of like our club show and our band show were very similar, and now we've separated them in the sense that like the band show is sort of mature enough to stand on its own, and the DJ set and club set is sort of mature enough to stand on its own. So it was just a natural thing, and I think like it's just Jimmy and I most of the time in the studio, and it's just sort of, we ended up making a few more club based or dance floor focused tracks, and that's kind of where we're at now. And I think while we do this dance floor focused thing, the plan was to do a bunch of DJ sets this year. That's obviously not happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we're now in the iteration of making the next record that is more open-ended, maybe more band focused, maybe more club focused, maybe a mix. We don't really know, but we're just kind of in the next phase of writing,
Yeah. What I like so much about you guys is that you're always looking for an experience for the listeners, for your audience. You just touched on it as well. And this time around, you took it one step further by making this project like almost 3-dimensional, because it's going to be like a concept EP, right? With a very interactive video, for instance.
Yeah, and the whole EP is mixed together, so it flows like a DJ set. So when you listen on Apple Music or Spotify, it will play, like it won't stop. But then you can also go and pick individual tracks that you want to listen to. But we've always been super interested in making something that you just put on and leave it alone, and it doesn't stop, and it goes from start to finish and takes you on a journey. So we feel like quite proud that this is the project we were able to sort of finally do that.
Yeah, and one of the acts that inspired you guys is the concept album by Pink Floyd, right?
Totally. That's one of the greatest.
Yeah, I think everyone wants to make a Dark Side of the Moon, Yeah.
What is it about that record that inspired you guys so much?
It's just like, it really creates its own world, and it is like a journey, and like having a sonic world and kind of exploring a bunch of really universal themes, and sort of drawing you in and taking you on a journey is sort of the inspiration we took. So
yeah, what would you say is the best song from that album?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I mean, that's the thing. It's one of those records that it's rare that I ever pick a song from that record to listen to. If I listen to Pink Floyd, I put the album on, you know? So, cause it's like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So it's like that and The Wall are just two such great records. I mean, obviously you can pick like Money or you can pick different songs, but I think they just work so well as records. I can't pick one.
You can't pick one.
I couldn't say what my favorite is.
I will pick one to play tonight on the radio. That's going to be fine. I'll figure it out. Sorry?
Which one would you play?
Which one would you play?
I think I was actually also thinking about Money, but I agree with you. I don't know if you guys heard of Jay Lloyd, but he's from this band called Jungle, and he recently released like this mixtape, and it's the exact same sentiment that you just described of like it being, you just have to put it up, and as soon as you pick one song out, it feels like you're butchering the whole project.
Yeah. That's what those albums. I actually just listened to that J Lloyd record because I went onto Jungle's page and it's on their page as well.
Yeah,
and I was, what's this? And we met those guys a couple times. They're really nice guys, and they make great records.
Yeah, but I completely understand how you feel, but still, I really want to play Jay Lloyd. So still, I'm still picking a song out of the mixtape every night because I can't play the whole mixtape, sadly.
Yeah, that doesn't really work on radio, I guess.
I have one last question for you guys.
Sure.
I know that the main vision for Bob Moses was bridging the gap between electronic music and like classical songwriting, rock and punk rock. Do you guys feel like you've gotten closer to finishing that mission?
I don't know if it's ever going to be finished. I think we're getting closer, yeah. But I don't know when it'll ever be done. I think it's sort of, it's like an evolving process, you know. You're gonna, even if it's hard to say by what criteria we would have accomplished that, you know. I think we've accomplished it in certain ways each time we've made music, but I think that's part of the excitement about being creative and being a musician and being a producer and songwriter, is that it's sort of an ever evolving concept, and you can always push the boundary of that.
Yeah,
you can do it a different way, or push it further, or mess with song structure or whatever. So we've left ourselves a never accomplishable and ever expanding creative project, because we want to be doing it for forever. So
now that's a desire for you.
Yeah,
right. I was about to say that's freedom.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for your time. And at the end of August, the rest of the project will release, right?
Yes.
Great. Can't wait. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.